All right. I just signed in, said hello to you. Hope everything's going great. I'm very excited to teach this class. I've never taught this before. And from what I understand from the department chair, it hasn't been taught in quite some time. We don't have a lot of people in this class. I think we have 9, maybe 10. But that doesn't mean we can't be a family, baby. So I'm approaching this like this. We are a family, and we are here to learn from one another, and we're here to, perhaps make things a little bit better around this nation. We have some struggles here in Miami, in the state of Florida, in the U.S., things that I've never seen in my lifetime. I'm 54 years old, and I haven't seen none of this. I've never seen such a convergence between, economic issues, a racial and ethnic divide, a pandemic. Man, I'll tell you what, it's going crazy. Before I really start getting going, because I'm kind of hyped up tonight. I was kind of low key this morning, but man, I'm ready to roll. Could you please sign in your name and just say hello? Hey, Angelo, weren't you in Angelo? Weren't you in this morning's class? Was that you? I think so. Who else is out there, baby? Let's roll this thing out. Let's roll this thing out. Ready to make some points, get everything flowing nicely, so we can have a great semester. Who else is out there? Let's see who else is out there. Angelo, how'd you like class this morning? I found my glasses. My glasses were under my desk. I couldn't see this morning, so I was trying to read like messages and things. I couldn't do it, but I can see now. How was this morning, Angelo? I think there's like feedback or something. Awesome, awesome. All right. I think that there's a delay from what I'm saying with what you receive, so I don't know how to fix that, but I do know that, hey, Stephanie, what's happening? How are you on this, what is this, Wednesday evening? Have you lost track of time like I have? I never know what day it is anymore. I'm always home. I'm always doing podcasts with, making a podcast out of this book that you're going to be using for your text. It's called Dear Mama, Lessons on Race, Grace, and the Wisdom to Overcome. I wrote it. It's intense. It's definitely intense. A lot of violence in there, a lot of sexual exploitation, and what you'll see immediately, the reason I'm using it is because I was raised by an African American family, and you look at my skin. Okay, all right, it'll get better, Angelo. It'll get better. Hello, Megan. But I was raised in an African American family, so when I'm in a live class, typically I walk in the classroom and I wear a tie, what have you. I'm not going to wear a tie while I'm chilling at home, but I got my cap on because you don't want to see this baldness up here, baby. No, you don't want to see all that. So when I walk in the classroom, people can see my skin. They can see he's a white male. He has a PhD. He has 4 master's degrees, which is kind of crazy. I don't even remember what they're in anymore, but I have them. And I went to perhaps the #1 rated high school in Ohio, Maumee Valley Country Day School. So when I walk into a classroom, most people make these assumptions about me as if they somehow know me when, really they don't. Because what you can't see by looking at the surface, like I have good income, I've come a long way, quote unquote, living the American dream or what have you. But the truth of the matter is that I was raised by a single mother who was grossly abused as a little girl by my grandmother. I was raised by Mama Green, right here. Right here. That's Mama Green. There's Mama Green. And on the back, there's my mom, her best friend Irma Jean. That's Guy. I thought of him as my brother. That's Jerry. They were best friends. Mama, where's my finger going? Jason, her grandson. Gloria, daughter-in-law. Of course, that's me. I'm wearing a Miami Dolphins belt buckle, baby, 10 years old. I was representing even back then. Mama Green and her boyfriend, Mr. Johnny, right? So my exposure early in life when I was young was literally multi-ethnic, right? I grew up in a very violent neighborhood. I grew up in East Toledo, so one of the best ways to understand where I came from is if you think about Detroit, or you think about maybe Liberty City or Opelika or something like that. That's probably the closest I can come to really Liberty City. If you get off on the Martin Luther King stop, riding the Green Line train heading north, and you get off in that neighborhood. That neighborhood, when I first moved here, it reminded me of home. I got off the train, I took a little walk around. I said, man, this is just like my home in Toledo, Ohio. And as I was walking around, I noticed that, yeah, things are very similar. And I get on the train, I go up to North Campus, and I told my boss what I had done, the director, Hector Garcia, and Eddie. And I told them what I had done, and they said, are you crazy? I said, what do you mean am I crazy? They said, why are you going to get off and walk around those neighborhoods in Liberty City? I said, felt like home to me. They said, don't be crazy, man. This is Miami. This is no Ohio. Well, my indoctrination here was really interesting. I'm a sociologist by PhD, but I'm a criminologist by training. And one of the things that interested me the most was how dangerous is it in Miami? And when I started looking around, I noticed that the crime rate in Miami was lower than it was in Toledo, Ohio. It's lower than it was when I lived in Louisville, Kentucky. So I start to look at Miami, and I said, now I have to tell you though, that Palmetto Expressway, forget about it. I drove it one time. I got off at North Campus. I was so irritated when I went to teach that class. I sold my car. I got rid of it. I said, I'm not driving on that Palmetto again. I've had enough. Got rid of my car. Moved down to Kendall. I live right off of US 1, but by Dadeland Mall. And I noticed that the train would take me to where I needed to go, so I didn't have to worry about transportation. I still ride the bus. I haven't had a car in 7 or 8 years. And here's what I found. You may not agree with this. It's possible you won't. I find the people in Miami to be very, very nice. And when I say that to people, they're like, are you crazy? Have you met the people in Miami? I'm like, yeah. Every day I ride the bus, every day I ride the train, and everyone's kind. They always have a kind conversation. A lot of people started speaking Spanish to me because back in the day, I can't profile. People used to think I looked a lot like Andy Garcia, especially when I was younger. And so I get that quite a bit. The reason I bring it up is this. You are blessed to live in Miami, Florida. This is the most ethnically diverse place I've ever been to. I grew up in Toledo. I lived in Columbus when I went to Ohio State. I lived in Philadelphia for about 6 months. I used to work for the Philadelphia 76ers back when Dr. J was playing. It was his retirement season. And Charles Barkley was still playing for the Sixers. He was in his second year at that time. So I lived in Philly. I lived in Louisville, Kentucky. And I've been to every city there is. Right? I've been to New Orleans, Memphis, Atlanta, New York. I love New York. I've been to San Diego, Phoenix, Tucson, Dallas, all these places. And what I can tell you is that Miami is the most ethnically diverse city in America. Maybe Los Angeles is right there. New York City is right there. But Miami, there's so much richness here, man. If you take a look at your life here in Miami, Miami is not just physically a gorgeous place, but the people are magnificent. I love it here. One of my nicknames is Dr. 305, and the reason is like I'm a PR person for Miami. And it's not about the beach. I don't even go to the beach because the beach for me is like a vacation, just like it is for tourists. I go over there when I want to get away, right? But here's the question, right? How does ethnicity impact our lives, right? Many of you, some of you are probably Hispanic. Some of you are white American, African American, what have you. If we take a look at ethnicity and we take a look at race, which are two different things, by the way, they're not the same, right? Race is a biological trait, but race has no meaning in and of itself. Race is something that is ascribed and defined through humans. It's socially constructed, right? It doesn't exist in and of itself. We constructed race to have meaning for economic purposes back in the 1600s, then political purposes in the late 1700s. But ethnicity, what we're taking a look at, is a shared cultural heritage, right? So when we look at history and culture, that's where you get into ethnicity. Race has more to do with biology and how we describe biology. And of course there's overlap, obviously, right? And of course right now, I remember when Rodney King writes, hey, Yannette, oh, it's good to see you again. All right. I think you were in this morning's class. Wait a minute. Angelo and Yannette, or is it Janet, Are you related? Um, oh, okay. Thanks, Farrah. I appreciate it. I hope the telecast is coming through. What you all are going to find out is that I'm an old dude, baby. I'm an old dude, and me and technology, we're not best friends. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to give you some kind of live connection so that it does feel like a classroom. I'm a much better classroom teacher than I am virtual. So as you notice, all your assignments this semester, when you turn them in, we're going to do it through Blackboard. There's an email course messaging system in Blackboard. And what you're going to do is, I think there's 5 assignments. I'm going to have you submit your assignments as an attachment in the email. That way it's all in the class, it's in the structure, what have you. But I'm not doing a discussion board, man. We can use this comment board right here for discussions, right? As we progress through the semester, I will ask you to look at your announcements every day. I won't. Oh, okay. Hold on. Yeah, I want you to contact me. This is for everybody. I still don't know my number because I'm using my company number. I'm on vacation. I work more than I do than when I'm at work. You know, it doesn't even make any sense. Doesn't even make any sense. So let me check out my phone number. And what I want you all to do is I would like for you all to text me, right? Don't send me emails. All right? If you do send me an email, you can send it to sean.hopeworks@gmail.com. All right, so here's my number. Hold on just a second. Sorry, come on, baby. Come on. What's wrong with this thing? All right, let's see here. As you can tell, I talk to myself too, right? So I'm right at home. All right. All right, there's my phone number. And I emailed the syllabus to you Sunday night. So if you didn't get it, it probably means that you added the class later. So, just remind me with the text, and I'll send it to you probably tomorrow because I got to go see my kids here after class. But in any case, what was I saying? So when we take a look at ethnicity, right, what I want you to see is how does ethnicity affect your life, okay? Way too many okays, way too many ums. Let me just ask you all a quick question, if you don't mind. And I'd like you to post in the comment box. And I ask this every single semester, and every semester I do the same thing. Why are you in this class? Okay? So just start in the comment section. Tell me, why are you here? Right? Why did you take this class in particular? And it's exciting because it hasn't been taught in years. I'm very excited by the fact that we are here together. And as a matter of fact, the second thing that's really interesting to me is I don't teach at Inter-American or Padron campus. I teach out in Kendall. So it's nice to have exposure to you all for my first time in the Inter-American campus. Though it's virtual. Can you all hear me? Because I know that the timing and the feedback is usually slow. So what I'm asking at this point in time is, why are you in this class? Right? So if you don't mind putting up there why you're here, I sure would appreciate that. Okay? I'll tell you why I'm here. Would you all be interested in knowing why I'm here at Miami-Dade College in Miami, Florida? The reason I'm here is because I've worked at, I don't know how many universities. Ohio State University, I worked there. That's where I started. I worked at Capital University in Columbus. Oh, awesome. That's a great reason, interesting subject. I taught at the University of Louisville for 10 years. Had all those American... Oh, good. Thanks, I'm glad. I taught at the University of Louisville for 10 years where I had, NFL players, NBA players, etc. As a matter of fact, I may be the only professor you'll ever meet in your lifetime who had a Heisman Trophy winner in class as well as a Super Bowl MVP, right? So my career is kind of wide and broad. I do financial planning. So one day I'm going to actually teach you all how to invest and how to build your financial house. Because one thing we're seeing right now, if you notice, is that ethnicity, race and ethnicity have had a huge impact on income, right? So when we're looking at these unemployment numbers hitting 40 million people that a month ago were employed, who's getting hit the hardest? It's no mistake, it's no accident that minority groups are getting hit harder than those who are quote unquote institutional power, right? So we take a look economically, health-wise, educational attainment. All these different things vary in accordance to ethnicity, not at the individual level, but certainly at the level of institutions. In other words, an institution is a stable cluster of behaviors that are designed to meet basic human needs, right? So the economic institution meets the needs to distribute goods and services. The family institution is to reproduce the population. Education institution is to provide knowledge, etc., etc. I love it. I love it, Stephanie. I love it. Great, great. Right? So, it's a requirement for your major? Okay. Is it Janet or is it Yanette? I don't want to get it wrong all semester. Somehow we'll figure it out. Yes. Angela, I think there is. His question is, if you can see it, Professor, is there a correlation influence between a community's cultural, ethnic diversity and xenophobia? Xenophobic they are towards outsiders. I definitely think so, right? And if we take a look at historically ethnic relationships in the United States, we would see that there's absolutely a relationship between those who are competing. Typically, if you look at it structurally, that is, what are the patterns of behavior that influence? Okay, thank you, Janet. I'm going with Janet. I'm going to go with Janet. You tell me what you want. But anyhow, if you take a look at it historically, the conflicts have typically been over who's competing for what jobs in the labor market, right? So if we take a look at labor market and educational levels and things like that, what you would see is that xenophobia typically runs in correlation to who's competing for the jobs, right? So, you know, African Americans in the late 1800s through the 1900s were lynched at a high level, right? Because they were competing for lower end jobs after Reconstruction. But one of the facts that is not widely known is that Hispanic Americans, Mexicans in particular, they're also lynched at the same kind of rate. And the reason is that if you went through Texas, you went through Arkansas, after the Mexican-American War, Mexicans were regarded as an enemy when in fact that they actually occupied the western part of the U.S. So when we annexed that area, they became the quote-unquote enemy. And therefore, we have this cultural heritage, this linkage in which hatred towards Hispanics, Mexicans in particular, continues to this day, right? So when we take a look at xenophobia, we're really taking a look at how is our belief systems rooted into cultural and historical forms, right? So when we're talking, really what we're getting at are stereotypes, right? Stereotypes are very powerful. What I was telling you before with me being a white male, people tend to make a lot of assumptions that they know who I am, right? They have no idea who I am. They see this. They don't know who I am. They don't know that I was raised by this woman here, by Mama Green, which you're going to read. This is your textbook, by the way. They don't know that my family, I lived in a very, very violent household. My mother and Irma Jean, they used to battle each other every single day, right? My neighborhood, my other book is called A Mother Cries. That's down here somewhere. A Mother Cries, Lethal Violence in the Zombie Apocalypse. I list in the first chapter all the people I knew who got murdered, right? Then I turn around and list all the people who committed suicide. And then I analyze it in a textbook form. Terrific book. It's not, well, it could work in this class if you want to see it. But it's a criminology book, so I use it over there. But when you look at me, you have no way of knowing that I was surrounded by drugs my whole entire young life. You have no way of knowing that violence permeated every component of my life. There's no way. How are you going to see it? How are you going to see it? I got one scar on my forehead, right, from a fight, okay? You can't see that we were poor. You can't see that. You can't see the ethnicity. Oh, yeah, and that right on time. You can never judge a book by its cover. Let me tell you something. Mama Green, the greatest life lesson she ever gave me, it was a very simple message. You know, if you watch my video, it's on my Hope Works with Sean Schwanner. If you watch the speech that I gave in February and it's on. There's actually pretty good. There's in the middle of it. Everyone tunes out, but in the middle of it, man, it's hilarious. I'm doing crazy stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But the one thing that was really important in that speech was Mama Green, when I was a little boy, taught me. She said, "Never hate and never judge. Never judge unless you walked in the shoes of another person, and you, my baby, have never walked in the shoes of another person." I said, man, that's deep. And I remember when I was 5 years old, we were sitting at the breakfast table. Mama Green used to make homemade everything. And Daddy Green was sitting here. Mama Green sat over here. Guy sat over here. Leo. I thought he was my brother. As a matter of fact, they did psychological evaluations in my school because I kept talking about my African American family, and they're like, he's a single child. He's only a white male. His mother's not married. He must be making up a delusional situation. So I went through a psychological evaluation. They came back that I had dissociative personality disorder because I had created this whole entire family, which, as it turned out, was a real family, right? So we're sitting here having breakfast, and I was in kindergarten at the time, and I jumped up. I said, "Mom, let me show you what I learned at school today." She said, "Okay, baby, show me what you learned." Not today, but the prior week. So I go and I tap Daddy Green on the head, and I say black. I tap Mama Green on the head, I said pink. I tap Guy on the head, and I go black. I sit down, hit my chest, sat down and said white, right? Hey, Matt, hey, what's going on? Matt Hyde, for those of you who don't know, Matt Matt and I went to high school together, Maumee Valley Country Day School. And the reason I'm not good at technology is because Matt is great at technology. And we had an assignment with Mrs. Schwartz. It was our freshman year in high school. And we had to write a program where we turned 10 monkeys into 11, right? So I kept doing the assignment, and I kept getting 9 monkeys. I'm like, man. I said, Matt's really smart. So Matt had crumpled up his paper and threw it in the trash can. So I took it out. I directly copied what he had done. And I got 8 monkeys. I'm like, what? How can I directly copy off of this man and end up with 8 monkeys instead of 11? I gave up. Threw it away. Turned my back to computers forever. And back then, the beauty is that we were at the cutting edge of the technological revolution in computers. Had I stayed focused on learning computers and became a technology wizard, I'd been wealthy beyond belief, right? But here's what I didn't know at the time. 2 things. 1, stereotypes are very powerful in the way that we see ourselves. It's very powerful in the way we see others. And it just so happens, I'm coming back to you, I think Angela, and xenophobia. There's a difference between a stereotype and what is called a controlling image, right? A stereotype is a negative prejudgment about a person or a group of people. A controlling image is different. A controlling image is a stereotype on steroids. And what a controlling image does is that those who are discriminated against, when they actually believe that the discrimination is real, and they act as if somehow that discrimination is real, it becomes real in its consequences, and it can control behavior. So when we take a look, if I ask you, okay, if I give you these characteristics, tall, young, African American, and I said, who am I describing? Many of you would think basketball player, right? But if I said young African American male with glasses, tall, now all of a sudden it would become a little bit more discombobulated. And why is that? It's because there's some kind of belief system out there that these characteristics are real. Harry Edwards, who's a sports sociologist from University of California, Berkeley, he made the argument that young African American men and he was in the Olympics in '68, and he did his fists and everything. He made the argument that if we had images of a professional outcome for young African American men, that we'd have greater diversity in the labor force. But because of the way stereotypes permeate, because of the way that controlling images permeate in the media, in word of mouth, etc., and our common sense assumptions, what happens is, just a second. And what you have are these divisions. Hate doesn't exist in and of itself. It's ridiculous. Hate is a social construction that comes from historical forces, economic forces, and philosophical forces. It's deeply embedded in common sense. When our common sense becomes one of division, like it is now, right? Build a wall. It doesn't matter if you like Trump or don't like Trump, because long before Trump ever showed up, there were people that discriminated against Mexicans from Mexico, right? We've always had xenophobic ideas towards that group. So we say build a wall. What are we building? We're cutting off our number 2 trading partner. Number 1 is Canada. Number 2 is Mexico. Number 3 is China, right? So we're looking beyond. We're not looking beyond the surface. We're actually letting the surface dictate for us what our interpretation is, and that's rooted in history, and that's rooted in stereotypes and controlling images. So Harry Edwards makes the argument that if young African American men spent, I can't remember what his number was, spent the same amount of time practicing education in school as singing and basketball, you would triple the number of African American doctors and lawyers in the workforce, right? If you listen to, what's the name, Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his book, Outliers. He talks about, is it Outliers? I think it's Outliers, right? What he says is that, hold on, give me a second, I got to think of the term. Capitalization, that's it. Boom, the capitalization rate. The capitalization rate varies in accordance to ethnicity, right? And here's what that is. The capitalization rate is what percentage of a population finds itself working in the professional class, right? So in the United States, and this is Malcolm Gladwell, we have 55% of Asian Americans are in the professional class, engineering, professors, lawyers, all those kind of things, right? The professional class. Whites, I think it's like 35%, okay? Hispanics, it's around 15 to 20% according to Malcolm Gladwell, but for African American men, it's 3%, 3 to 5%. So the question is it really based upon inheritable traits such as race, or is there something that is in the construction of our society itself that distributes these outcomes? As a sociologist, I say it's a structural force, and we're going to talk about structural force, right? Structural forces basically create the channels that we occupy as we move through and as we live, right? Our quality of life, our outcomes are structural forces. So going back to your question, Angelo, yes, there is a correlation. It's a complicated correlation, but there is certainly a correlation, all right? Yes, Angelo, I think it was coined by Du Bois, but I don't know for sure. Why don't you do me a favor, and would you mind looking that up? Because W.B. Du Bois, man, he was magic. His work is just magic. And when we take a look at like Pan-African studies, all the things that he was talking about back in 1900, it's coming back around. So we take a look at what's coming back. It never left. So people, I don't get into politics at all, right? It's just not my thing. People argue about it. And everyone wants to blame Trump for, the rise in racism. I'm sorry. That's not Trump. That stuff's been sitting around for historically since we were created. So we're going to blame him? No, we can't blame him. What happened was, once he got elected, the voice of hatred emerged, right? But the hatred was already there. And why was it there? Because we have common sense assumptions about others that we hold to be true. But they're not true. Because here's what C. Wright Mills says. C. Wright Mills, who's a sociologist, 1959, he wrote that in the sociological imagination, people are more similar than they are different, right? But what we try to do is we try to find the differences and exploit those differences so we can create a hierarchical system. Don't work that way, right? Because if you really take a look at it, because I'm a living example of it, what I learned was poor kids and wealthy kids, their parents both loved them. Both sets of parents want to do what's best for their kids. Most parents, not all of them, but most parents want their kids to get an education. Most parents want to love their kids. Most parents want their kids to have a good job. They want them to have a quality of life, right? Well, that's a pretty big similarity. It doesn't really matter what race or ethnicity you are. We want you to do better. Now, a few minutes ago I was talking about trends, right? And Matt, he reminded me of this. Had I jumped on the trend train, that's hard to say, you should try that sometime. Had I jumped on the trend train back in 1980, when I was a freshman in high school, my life would have been completely different, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't see how powerful a force computers were going to be. Now you live in an age where the direction and the speed of change is it hasn't been seen before, right? The greatest change in human history is happening right now in your lifetime. And we do not know what the future is going to hold. But here's what we do know. There's going to be racial division, social class inequality. That's going to come down the road. But many of the jobs that you have or that you're pursuing will be taken over by artificial intelligence and robotics. Right now, the what's it called? Not the census, Department of Labor. They say by the year 2040, right? What is it? 30% of the jobs that exist today will not exist in 2040. That's 30%. 30% of the jobs that will exist in 20 years haven't even been imagined yet. So, what are we training you to do? We're training you to take a multiple choice exam? Are you serious? You mean to tell me you're going to go through kindergarten all the way through college, learning how to take a multiple choice exam, rather than learning how to identify who you are and what you are, and see how you fit into the system? Yes, Angelo? The rhetoric is damaging, and we've definitely seen the rhetoric play itself out during the rioting. Now, it's interesting. I have a Pan-African Studies professor, really good friend of mine, Ricky Jones, up in Louisville, University of Louisville, and he's like, "Are we watching riots or are we watching rebellion?" Right? Because riots has the terminology to exacerbate the idea that people are out of control. But if we change it to rebel, that means there's an underlying current in which people are trying to reassert their control over their own lives. So the wording that we use will construct for us the definition of how we interpret behavior. And yes, I certainly think that the rhetoric, bring out the dogs and all that kind of stuff, it's very damaging because it's not just him, but it's playing back into historical forces. And what we're really seeing is the culmination of all these facts and these forces converging in one time and one place that is going to change the way in which we live. So here's what I want to do. All right. You all told me kind of why you're in here. A lot of times it's for credits, right? I love when people say it's because it's going to be an interesting class, right? I hope I make it interesting for you, right? But as I say in every single one of my classes that I've ever taught, there's only one reason why you're in the class, right? I had teachers who believed in me because without those teachers, I wouldn't have made it. I'd have got eaten up. I'd have got eaten up by the east side. I definitely would have turned to crime. I definitely would have trafficked drugs. That'd have been my job of choice. Because I knew everybody. I was a good salesperson, so it was the fastest money. It was there, and I probably would have done it. But I didn't because I had these buffers at school. And I had Mama Green and my mother and Irma Jean, so I had the buffers, but I was totally surrounded by drugs and crime. Everywhere you looked, it was right there. Now in Toledo, the east side is just ridiculous. So, take a look at that. But for me, I had teachers who believed in me, right? I got tired of them saying, he's a diamond in the rough. He's a diamond in the rough. What? I want to be a diamond. But what happened is that these teachers would embrace me and lift me up when times were really hard. Times were really hard, man. My high school life was crazy. My mother tried to murder me when I was 15 years old. Then her best friend tried to murder her 6 months later. And the boyfriend put his fist through the door, and my mom's ex-boyfriend came and threatened to kill him. Every day. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I got out of it because I had buffers, right? I had human beings. And here's the message that I learned. I haven't achieved my goals yet. I'm working on that through my business, Hope Works. But each and every one of you has greatness inside of you. You're all great. And it looks like I'm buffering, so I apologize for that. But you all have greatness inside of you. And what our education system has done, okay, I think we're still streaming. What our education system has done is created a group of conformists to take a multiple choice exam. Because while you're trying to guess what's in my head so you can answer a question, you're not looking at what's in your head. And every single class you take should be designed such that you take the information so that you can create a better life for yourself. How do you fit into this system? What does ethnicity mean to you, and how does it impact your life? That's what we need to know, right? So every day, if you have the opportunity to learn more about you and pursue your dreams, have your vision, look, if you have that, you're going to be further along than 95% of the population. And here's another thing. I do this every day. It's hard, baby. It's hard. This stuff I'm telling you to do, this stuff is real life stuff. It's hard. I have a picture frame over there in the kitchen. And it says, fill a stadium. That's my big goal. What that means is I want to be a professional motivational speaker. So if I ever fill a stadium, that means I will get paid really well. So my income will be taken care of, my kids will be taken care of, etc., etc. But underneath that, I have a saying. And I have to say it to myself. I look in the mirror, I say, I love you, I like you, and you're worthy of your dreams. I say it every day because it's so easy to talk down to ourselves that what we really need to do is come up with the practice to talk to ourselves in much more respectful ways, right? And here's the reason why I'm talking about greatness. And here's the reason why I want you to read that every single day. Because I don't know what you're going through. Some of you might be having a perfect life right now. Some of you might be in a relationship in which you're being abused. Some of you might be trying to figure out, how am I going to, should I pay for food tomorrow or should I get gasoline to go to work? Right? I don't know what you're going through. I certainly can't look at you on the surface and know anything about what's going on in here. I don't want you to judge me. I'm certainly not going to judge you. But here's what I can say. And this is absolute promise. I mean this. If you have something that you need to confront, something you need to deal with, you got my phone number. Text me. Yep. I'm going to help you get through it. Because unless we can have you be the best you can be, you can't manifest the greatness that is sitting within you. Right? In the last, I've been at Miami-Dade College, it's my 8th year. And I probably have 4 or 5 people per year who confide in me that they're contemplating suicide, right? And it's been going on forever. I mean, this happens all the time. And people come to me and I say, okay, let's sit down and let's talk. And we'll do that. Most won't do it. Most professors don't want to be, liable for giving bad advice or something like that. And I'm like this, what if I'm the only person that you're comfortable turning to? And I say, I can't help you because I'm not a certified psychiatrist or psychologist. The only door that you may have had open to you to climb out of that hole just got closed. I don't care if I lose my job, baby. I'll find another job. I got a part-time job. I'm running a company. I got 2 companies. Trust me, I'll generate income. But can you imagine? You get the bravery, the courage to talk to someone about what's in your head. And they say, I can't help you because of a bureaucratic rule and regulation. Bureaucracy to me is what's slowing us down. Okay? Because you have all these rules and these regulations in this hierarchical structure, and we try to follow that. I'm a sociologist. I follow what is right to do by you. So, if you need to reach out, you reach out, because we need you to be at your best. And if you have to work through things, then let's work through it, baby. Let's get you to where you need to be. Now, I wish we could do my handshake that I do every semester, but with the coronavirus, can't be doing that. I had 4 people in my Tuesday night class last semester that had the coronavirus. And we used to do a handshake that everyone did so that we could feel a sense of camaraderie and community and closeness. So, back to the class. I talk too much, don't I? All right. You have 5 assignments to do this semester, okay? And it's in the syllabus that was sent to you within Blackboard. The first assignment I want this Sunday. It's just a page. I want you to list, I think that's what I want to do. Is this what I want to do? Yeah. The 5 most important issues pertaining to ethnicity in America. And when you take a look at those 5 most important issues, what is the underlying structural force? Is it economics, religion, family, education, whatever? What is that underlying force that shapes that issue with ethnicity? I want you to do something like that. Then the next assignment, I think there's only 10 people in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assign each of you a city in America. And you're going to, excuse me, you're going to analyze that city by looking at ethnicity, right? The third week, and I know this seems fast, but it's 5-6 week term. Third week, I want a term paper, right? You pick whatever topic you want. Ethnicity in sports, which I love. Actually, I'm writing a book right now on ethnicity, sports, and crime, right? So if you want to do that, that's great. Ethnicity in professionals, ethnicity in religion, ethnicity and xenophobia. Whatever you want to do in terms of ethnicity and America is fine with me. And it doesn't even have to be America. You can do it, in Bosnia. I don't care. Just make it interesting to you, and make sure that when you write it, you're writing it in such a way that it takes you to a greater place. Right? And I'm going to show you how to write. I have very specific types of rules that I learned from all those teachers that will make your writing so much easier to do. Then I forget what the 4th assignment is, and then the 5th assignment, you're going to have your term paper. Next week, we're going to start talking about this book, but we're going to start talking about it from the ethnicity perspective, right? Because I came from a neighborhood that was very ethnically diverse. Puerto Rican, Mexican, white, black, etc., all together in one neighborhood. So we'll be covering this book in terms of ethnicity. Those of you who are in the earlier class, social problems, there's also social problems in here as well. Can I please repeat number 2? Yeah, I can. Number 2, I'm going to assign each of you a city, and you're going to find out everything you can and write about ethnicity in that particular city. Right? What are ethnic relationships like? What's the impact on quality of life, etc.? So I'm not going to give anyone Miami because you're from here, but I'm looking at New York City, looking at Philadelphia, Seattle. Seattle's going to surprise you, whoever gets that. Los Angeles, we're going to take a look at probably Chicago, maybe Dallas. So I'm going to pick these cities out, and we're going to really get to know them. And the reason is because, let's face it, there's an ethnic explosion right now, right? And this explosion of these underlying tensions, it has a real impact on us. And, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I just want us to live more peacefully than we have in the past. And I think that we have this great, great opportunity to make a change, to make a difference. Right? 1, we use this class to make a change, to make a difference in other people's lives. 2, we use this class to make a difference in your life. And when you walk away at the end of the 6th week, I hope you can say, man, I did learn a lot. I will give you videos and terminology for you to look up, the important keys and terms, so you don't have to worry about stressing out over textbooks. I'll give you the terminology you need. If you want to start looking things up ahead of time, you can look up, if you're taking notes, conflict theory. Here, I'll write it down. Functionalism. Why my thing working? Conflict theory. Functionalism. And symbolic interactionism. Right? So those are going to be 3 core concepts. You might as well look them up. And they're theoretical perspectives or sociologically driven concepts. But the reason why you want theory is because theories will frame the way in which you interpret different types of behavior. So when I see the rioting taking place, I'm almost always looking at it from a conflict perspective. Not conflict like this kind of perspective. Conflict in who has power, who has the wealth, right? So I'm looking at the unequal distribution of wealth and how it expresses itself in violence, right? That's conflict theory. Functionalism basically is just saying, how do the institutions work together to promote stability in society, right? Just think of a car. You got to have the tires, you got to have the engine, you got to have the doors, you have to have all the pieces to work together for that car to function. In symbolic interaction, when I was talking about stereotypes, etc., symbolic interactionism is essentially that we interact through the use of symbols. So the way in which we communicate is through words, right? If I say, let's dance, right, then that has a different meaning than saying, let's sit down. Sitting and dancing. Yes, Angelo, it is. They're all interesting, right? But I'm going to guide you through a bunch of the theories, and you'll look it up. Okay. Conflict theory is a very powerful one because it takes a look at social class inequality. Functionalism looks at how things work together. And symbolic, I'm a symbolic interactionist, right? I'm all these theories. But I love how do people construct their life, because nothing is real, right? Everything is socially constructed. Our interpretation of groups is based upon social construction, just like we're talking about when we're talking about xenophobia. It is a socially constructed status, right? And when you have the social construction, it creates boundaries between people. Why should we have boundaries based upon prejudgment and hate? It makes no sense to me, right? But those boundaries are constructed, they become real in their consequences, and when applied, become deadly, or conceivably deadly. So the way I like to look at it is, if we can construct this hate, then we can reconstruct a form of peace. And ultimately, in my view, if we create healthy relationships between people, right, we can drive down crime. We can drive down levels of homicide and suicide. And we can drive down all these forms of sickness, you know, because if you take a look at sickness and disease, it's socially constructed as well, through diet, through behavior, etc. So as we take a look at how things get constructed, I want to keep an eye towards how do we reconstruct a new world. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I doubt, well, no, I don't doubt it. I'm not going to do it. I can't talk forever. And without having the live interaction, I think I'll just max out at an hour when we do a presentation. And then I'll give you announcements in Blackboard so that you know we're not going to live stream every single class. We're definitely going to live stream, what is today? On Mondays and Tuesdays. Well, if you're my Tuesday, Thursday class. If you're Monday, Wednesday class like you are here, we'll live stream for sure on Mondays, maybe on Wednesdays, right? Depends on what needs to be covered. A couple special presentations I'm going to do. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it in my Doodly video maker or if I'm going to do it as a lecture and get a whiteboard and write it out for you. I haven't decided yet. But two things that are definitely going to happen. One, I'm going to teach you how to write, right? And two, I'm going to teach you how to invest your money. Because I also believe that, because I'm a financial services representative, I also do investments for people. So if you know anybody who needs life insurance or who wants to build their financial house, send them over here, because I have a job and I make pretty good money, so I don't have to be dependent upon that other job. My financial services job is strictly designed for me to give people an opportunity to learn how to invest, how to take care of their financial security, because those of you who are under the age of 25 right now, I can make you a millionaire. By the time you're my age, you'll be a millionaire, if you listen to what I'm saying. And it's real easy. But nobody teaches us, and that's what drives me crazy. Whoa, drives me nuts. So I'm going to have a special class on that, how to get your financial house in order. I'm going to teach you how to become a millionaire if you want to do it, and teach you how to write. Writing, mindset, investing. You're going to be different than the other 95% of the persons out there. Yes, the live lectures will be at the same time. They're going to be at our designated course time, right? Because structurally, if we're supposed to be here at 6:40, it's just easier than say, all right, I'll see you at 3:20 on Thursday. Now, let's just keep it the same. More for me than for you, because I have so many things. Like right now, I'm writing 4 books. I'm running 2 companies, and I work part-time doing financial services, right? So I got 4 jobs, 4 books. I'm always overwhelmed with work, so When it's time for us to come here at 6:40, that's when I'll do it. Angelo, man, you're running deep today, baby. Yeah, all right. Yep, the roots tie back to Karl Marx. But they are essential to learn and comprehend, all of them are, absolutely. Because if nothing else, I've always ascribed to this. Even if you disagree with somebody else, it's good to know how their thinking works. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Absolutely. Please interact with me on the comment board anytime you want. If you ask me questions, as you can see, I will answer the question and we'll fill the time that way. I like live classes because you can't tell it because I can't see you, but I'm very interactive. I tend to be kind of funny at times. As a matter of fact, in my live classes, I will take one day, I'll just tell jokes for 2 hours, right? And then another day, I'll just sit there and tell you how to invest your money, right? How to get your life insurance squared away. I will talk about relationships, right? Because, oh, that's the last thing. So you want to be great. Every day you wake up, you look at yourself and say, you are great, right? And when you do so, make sure that if there are people in your life that bring you down, that undermine your greatness, that make you question yourself, kick them off your team, baby. Gone. Because you should surround yourself with those people who believe in you, who edify you, who lift you up and give you strength and give you courage. If you surround yourself with those people all day, every day, and you cut out the ones that drag you down, I don't care if you're in a relationship or what, they got to go. Because you are too valuable in this world to be brought down because someone else's hate, someone else's anger, someone else's abuse brings you down. Not me, baby. I cut them out and I bring them in. And right now, I have a team, probably about 4 people that are magnificent. And if you want to find your greatness, you certainly need to surround yourself with a team that is going to be the centerpiece of your life. Right? Okay. Which, by the way, Angelo, since you like theory, social network theory. My favorite theory in sociology is called network theory. We'll talk about it later. It's a very powerful theory, very difficult to fully comprehend because it's so complex. And when I talk about ethnicity and violence, which I will in probably week 3, I'll talk about stream analysis. And when I talk about stream analysis, I firmly believe that if we want to solve these issues that we have in front of us, we got to look at it like this, that we're all in the same stream, swimming through the same current, but where we are in the river is different, right? So looking at how those underlying forces shape all of our lives, we also want to know how within that stream our networks connect us differentially within the stream, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't care about your grade. I don't give a damn. You get an A, you get an A, you get an F, you get an F. What I do care about is when you walk out of this room, I guess we're not in a room, when you walk out of this class, I want you to see the world from a different perspective. And I want you to see the world from an empowered perspective so that you, 20 years from now, can be in control of your life. Well, it looks like I got kicked off of here. It was great seeing you. I wish you well.